Materials are really important to me as far as what they might convey or mean to the audience. And so recently, the overall kind of concepts that I've been working with are more land use and environmentally related. And so I've been working with materials that I think respond to some of my perspectives about that. So it would be recycled maps and atlases. Lead is a newer metal that I've been working with because of the both the protective and the hazardous kind of implications of it. Been very interested in found objects and recycled materials, both for how that relates to environmental concerns, but also the just the history and additional weight that comes with those objects or materials, that they can refer to their own past in whatever context they're within my work. This would be one, just a recycled book from a book sale, and then what I do is basically turn it back into a block of wood, and so taking all of the individual pages and laminating or gluing them back together into a solid block, and then treating it just like a block of wood and turning through on a wood turning lathe to cut through all of those different layers, and it sort of becomes its own tree rings again in the material. Mouse that glues together hundreds of layers of paper and then cuts back through it. Yeah, and that's all that you're doing. What you're trying to do is hit the entire surface, so you're trying not to miss anything. Personally, sculpture was so open and anything was possible.
At what point did you start taking art kind of as more of a serious thing, in high school? Or?
Well, I still have a really early drawing that I made that I actually drew on both sides of the paper, which I thought was interesting, and my mom kept it and labeled it. But it was what I wanted to be when I grew up. And on one side was sort of my visual representation of what a scientist was, and there's a lab and a lab coat and everything. And on the other side is my idea of what an artist was, and so there's like an easel and a model and kind of painting that. And so even just early childhood sort of those basic ideas of occupations where you get typically, you know, doctor, lawyer, scientist, fireman, those sort of stereotypical things. Art was definitely in there. But I always felt sort of pushed and pulled between the sciences, and my dad's a mechanical engineer, and so kind of having an interest and exposure to that, but then also something really open-ended and kind of challenging and unknown about art making.
Going into college and going further with art.
It was very interesting on the first day of that pre-college class. Being really, really nervous and knowing that I'm not going to be very good at all, and all of these kids are going to be like rock stars and amazing, and you know, really being very, very aware of it. But still, despite all of that anxiety, just walking into that room, looking around, and for the first time feeling, these are the people that I should be with. These are people that I want to be friends with. These are people that inspire me. This is the group of people that I want to be around for the rest of my life.
So when you got out of college, what did you do?
For me, it was fortunate that in thinking about those professional paths earlier, it was a very smooth transition for me. So, you know, I did have other jobs while I was in undergrad and, you know, working in a restaurant and things like that, where it helped clarify this is not what I want to do with my life. I do not want to be a waiter the rest of my life. But starting to work for galleries through an internship program, through my undergraduate program, working as an artist assistant for a couple different artists, and starting to become a professional in the local arts community.
That you felt really alone, really secluded after you got out of undergrad.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that probably a lot of students feel that way even now in their undergrad and their graduate, and it's just like this big, you know, what next wall you have for, you know, climbing over that wall.
For myself, community is really, really important. And having that sort of support resources for when you don't know an answer to a question, you don't know where to turn, you need some input, even if it's just on a piece, some sort of support like that. And so that has been critical to me throughout my artistic development, and not expecting that to just come up, but to be very proactive, to be very ambitious in knowing what you need and finding where it is that you can get that.
You mentioned earlier that you went to night school, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
And what did you go to night school for?
For the metalsmith, I was introduced to a variety of different processes and techniques with basically what's considered machining.
Mm-hmm.
And so using various tools that are considered more industrial processes to make other sort of tools and components. I became really, really interested and excited about that and wanted to learn a lot more about it. And so went to night school and ended up receiving a certification as a machinist. I saw that both as a sort of a career choice that I could fall back on that, as well as something that gave me a lot of really specific technical training that I could use in the production of my own studio work.
Going into this, your primary objective was to still be an artist,
Mm-hmm, sure.
but the career option was just a fallback for you.
I became much more open about what career options were viable for me,
Right.
and what did I really need to satisfy within me. And so that relates somewhat to the sort of passion as your vocation.
Yeah.
And so I didn't know what a machinist did. I certainly didn't know what a machinist made.
Right.
And both financially as well as what physical objects. And so as I became more exposed to that, I realized, wow, actually machinists will make significantly more money than
Right.
even teaching at a university.
But obviously you chose art because you did go on to grad school. How do you feel that grad school benefit, other than getting the degree, how do you think that you grew during your graduate years?
It was completely transformative, and in such a rapid period of time, in 2 short years, when I look at what I entered that program with and what I left that program with, as far as the work that I was doing, the awareness of a contemporary context of not just metalsmithing, but a wide range of different, very high-level professional disciplines, the connections that I made through that program,
Right.
all of those aspects were just completely transformative.
The students who are sitting in the position that you were in your undergrad years, thinking, now I have to make a decision. Do I take, even if they're interested in art and they decide, yes, I want to do art, they have to make the decision, do I want to do something that will guaranteed bring me money, something like art education, something like advertising, something with a standard pay, or am I going to go do something that I really love to do and risk that high standard of living, settle for something else?
I think it's important to know that there's a lot of choices to be made when you choose your passion as your vocation.
Right.
And there's going to be compromises there. And sure, I go to my high school reunion and people are buying big houses and they have new cars and all of these kinds of things that I didn't have. And I questioned whether I might ever have those. However, I knew and was very honest with myself about what was important to me and what was a priority in my life.
Students whose parents are a little apprehensive, but they really have an interest in doing art.
Being able to articulate their passion about it, and that at the core of any of those sorts of concerns, I do believe that there is the love and support and care from the parents, and the parents are really just doing what they feel is best. And trying to help their kids. So as much as the students can articulate and communicate that to their parents, and through being responsible of doing research, of becoming aware of professional opportunities so that they can educate themselves as well as their parents, that trying to dispel a lot of the stereotypes of, oh, you're going to be a starving artist, and that if you're succeeding in the arts,